Welcome back to your sacred space for reflection, the subconscious classroom, your favorite sanctuary after sundown. We're so grateful to have your presence again this evening. Tonight, we chisel our way back through the sands of time to ancient Egypt, beneath the golden gaze of the great Pharaoh Ramses II. You are no longer here in the now. You are a humble stone carver, tracing symbols into the limestone walls of temples destined to last for millennia. But before we lift the mallet and strike the first glyph, feel free to let us know what corner of time or history you'd love to explore next. If, and only if, you enjoy this timeless voyage, consider giving us a like and subscribing, so we may keep wandering down these moonlit corridors of the past together. Now breathe deep, settle into the rhythm of the Nile, and let your imagination carve itself into eternity. Let us begin. The air tastes of stone, dust, and heat. Long before the sun crests over the eastern horizon, before its full light bleeds across the limestone cliffs and the broken-boned workers of the Nile stir in their shared sleep, the work of the living gods has already begun. Ramses, son of Ra, master of the two lands, calls for monuments eternal, and the labor to build them never sleeps. This is ancient Egypt in the 13th century BCE, near the height of its imperial power. The land is lush where the river blesses it, but harsh beyond the floodplain. Life here, for most, is a burden carried on callous shoulders and split palms. Among the lowest of these lives is the stone carver. Not the planner, not the overseer, not the priest who blesses the foundation stone, but the man who strikes it again and again until it yields a god's likeness. The day begins in darkness. Not silence. There is no silence in a worker's village. Men cough in their sleep, roll over on straw mats, urinate into clay jars. The biting itch of sand fleas drives motion where exhaustion otherwise roots men in place. Sleep is shallow in this part of Egypt, where the wind carries fine sand into every crack of wood, every fold of linen, every breath. The stone carver wakes stiff, already sore. His limbs groan. His fingers curl awkwardly from the cramps of the previous day. He has been carving for more than 20 years, and the strain has twisted his spine and eroded his joints. There are days his hands fail to close around the chisel. Those days he pretends not to notice. To show weakness is to tempt dismissal, and to be dismissed is to die not only in body but in memory. One who does not serve the pharaoh leaves no legacy. The scribe does not write his name. Before first light, the men eat. The meal is sparse, flat bread, barely leavened, and beer that is more gruel than drink, thick with fermenting grain. The brew dulls the ache in the belly. It provides just enough energy to lift tools. Protein comes rarely. Meat is for offerings. Even those who feed the gods seldom taste their share. They march to the site as a unit, through the pre-dawn haze, past the red dust cliffs and the broken bones of older builds. The sun rises behind them, casting long shadows across half-finished pylons and walls carved with propaganda. Ramses appears again and again, larger than life, smiting enemies, offering incense, basking in divine approval. These likenesses are carved by hands like theirs. They etch divinity with mortal suffering. The worksite is a flurry of brutal coordination. Hundreds toil. The quarry itself is a crater of chaos, cut from the earth by decades of hammering and sweat. Blocks of limestone and sandstone, sometimes granite hauled from Aswan, lie stacked and half-shaped. Overseers bark orders with staffs in hand, short rods carved with hieroglyphs symbolizing power. A lash is not always needed, the threat suffices. The stone carver is not the lowest on the hierarchy, but he is closer to the bottom than the top. Above him are the master craftsmen, the scribes, the priests who design the narratives of each relief. Below him are the haulers, the shovelers, the youths who remove debris and bring water, but all breathe the same choking dust. He begins by inspecting the day's stone, measuring, marking, cross-referencing the master scribe's sketches. No room for error. If a figure is misaligned or a name misspelled, the entire panel may be destroyed. In some cases, errors are punished with more than a rebuke. The gods are not mocked even accidentally. His tools are basic: copper chisel, worn blunt, a dolerite hammer, heavy and rough, sometimes flint for detail. The rhythm of his work is constant. Chip, brush, inspect, repeat. Progress is slow. A single foot, a single curve of a falcon's wing may take hours. The more intricate the relief, the more risk of ruin. There is little shade. The sun climbs high by the second hour, baking the pale stone until it reflects fire into the eyes. A head covering helps, but sweat soaks through linen within minutes. The carver squints constantly. Many develop cataracts or go blind before age 40. The white dust cakes every eyelash, clogs the nose, dries the throat until even swallowing becomes labor. Water is rationed. Most take only a sip at midday. Insects swarm the trenches. Wasps nest in the cracks between scaffolding. Scorpions hide under the heavy blocks. One wrong step, one misplaced hand, and poison becomes part of the day's toll. Death here is not dramatic. It is accidental, silent. A body carried off before sunset. Name recited once, then never again. A slab falls, a pulley fails. A man collapses from sunstroke and is simply replaced. The carver is no stranger to danger. Years ago, a fellow worker beside him miscalculated the pressure on a load-bearing support. The beam snapped. A section of scaffolding collapsed. 4 men died beneath it, their forms crushed so completely their families were given only a bag of sand and a namestone. No work stopped that day. The carving continued, just feet away, as blood pooled into the dust. Still, the carver chips. The rhythm is survival. The hours pass in waves of focus and pain. Each symbol, each sacred bird or divine eye, must be shaped with reverence. The pharaoh's name is repeated endlessly. Ramses, son of Seti, ruler of all lands between desert and sea. The gods know his name, but it must be seen by future generations. So the carving continues, always the carving. Midday brings a break, but not rest. Food again, sour beer, perhaps lentils if the rations are generous. Men sit beneath wooden slats or within half-finished walls for shade. Conversation is minimal. The older ones chew silently. The younger ones mutter about women, dreams of promotion or superstition, omens in the bird flights, curses hidden in unfinished tombs. Religion suffuses every breath of the day. Before carving the image of a god, some whisper prayers, not out of piety, but fear. Mistakes in sacred iconography bring more than overseer's wrath. They invite spiritual peril. Some believe that a malformed eye of Horus invites blindness. A crooked Anubis figure draws death. The gods, they say, are in the stone, watching from behind the chisels. As the sun begins its descent, the dust hangs heavier. Muscles grow numb. Shoulders and wrists scream in protest. The carver often cannot feel his left hand by mid-afternoon. But there is no end until the foreman calls it. Those who rest early are punished. Tools dull, and if they break, the cost is recorded. Each carver is accountable for the damage to their instruments. When the call finally comes, it is not with ceremony. A grunt, a wave. The workers disperse like shadows. Some limp, others stumble, half blind, shoulders slumped like old oxen. The carver wraps his tools in cloth. He walks back the same way he came, through the windless trail between the dead hills. The workers' village is a collection of cramped homes made from mud brick and labor. They are built by the workers themselves in their spare time. Inside, the walls are low, heat-trapping. Smoke from cook fires clings to the ceiling. The smell is permanent. A wife waits, perhaps patient, perhaps bitter. Children may be there or gone, sent to carry water for the priests. Dinner is barely more than lunch. The children eat first. The carver swallows quickly, not from hunger, but fatigue. He is always tired. He has not been rested in decades. Night falls. Lamps are lit small flames in tiny bowls of oil. The air cools, but not by much. Sand invades everything. The wind moans between the gaps in the walls like the voices of the dead. Some men speak to them. Others sleep with knives beneath their mats, fearful of thieves or worse, priests who seek volunteers for funerary work. In the dark, the carver dreams when he is allowed to. Often, dreams are broken by coughing fits or the groan of joints dislocating in sleep. But when dreams come, they are strange. He sees gods walking among men, not as protectors, but as judges. He sees the walls he carved, thousands of years from now, broken, buried, found again by men who do not speak his tongue. He wonders if they will understand what was carved, or if they will only see power. He does not think about freedom. The word has no shape in his world. His father was a carver. His son may be too. The cycle repeats, like the river, like the sun. The carver knows he will die in dust, perhaps under stone, perhaps coughing his lungs into blood-soaked rags. But he will be remembered in a way, not by name. His name is already half lost, but in the stone somewhere his hands have left a mark. That mark, he hopes, will last longer than the pain. The sun does not relent. It looms overhead like an ever-watching eye of Ra, its light blinding, its heat oppressive. Midday in Egypt is not simply hot. It is punishing, a crucible in which only the hardened endure. And even among the hardened, there are casualties. By the time the carver returns to his stone, his skin beneath the linen wrap is already burning. He adjusts his headcloth, though it does little to stop the waves of heat radiating off the stone walls. Tools left exposed during the meal break are too hot to touch. A damp rag helps barely. He cools the copper chisel in a clay pot of water and returns to work. The stone he shapes is part of a massive narrative frieze. The scene is familiar. Ramses standing tall in a war chariot, bow drawn, charging into battle at Kadesh. Enemies kneel before him, faces twisted in stylized agony. The scale is deliberate. The king's figure is several times larger than the soldiers at his feet. The carver knows the dimensions by heart. The propaganda must be consistent, symmetrical, eternal. But even now, he questions the truth behind it. The real battle at Kadesh was not a complete victory. He has heard this whispered in the dark, behind backs, from workers who remember tales their fathers told. But such truths are dangerous. The official version is what matters. What is carved becomes history, and history is shaped by the sharp edge of a chisel. As he works, his hands begin to cramp again. The joints in his fingers feel as if they are full of hot sand. He forces them open, stretches them, wipes away the sweat and dust accumulating in the creases. The fine powder from the limestone coats his arms, his throat, the back of his tongue. He spits, it is dry. Even his saliva is reduced to dust. The man beside him, bare-chested, younger, lets out a sharp hiss. His chisel has slipped, slicing a shallow line across his palm. Blood beads quickly. A curse follows. He binds it with linen torn from his waist. No one offers help. Injuries are common. Assistance is rare. Each man is expected to endure. Pain is part of the profession. To bleed is to prove that you are still useful. To cry out too long is to be replaced. Further down the line, a block is being raised onto a platform using a sled system and wooden rollers. A crew of haulers strains against thick ropes, shoulders pressed together, feet braced in sand turned to paste by sweat. An overseer shouts rhythm, cracking a reed cane against the stone to mark tempo. One misstep could cause the entire block, several tons, to tip and crush. The air is filled with curses, grunts, and the creaking groan of wood under stress. Suddenly, a scream. One of the rollers shifts. The block lurches. A worker is caught beneath, not fully, just enough. His leg is pinned, crushed between the stone and the edge of a carved support. The scream becomes a roar, then a sob. The overseer curses, waving wildly, calling for help. But even as men rush forward to lever the stone off the crushed limb, the damage is done. The leg is mangled beyond repair. A medic is summoned, but he is no true healer. He arrives with a bronze blade and a clay pot of honey mixed with beer. The leg is amputated within minutes, cauterized with a hot blade. The man survives for now. Whether he continues living in the workers' village or is cast out to beg in the city depends on his connections. If his family can work in his stead, perhaps. If not, he will be remembered briefly, then forgotten like so many others. His fate is carved not into stone, but dust. The carver does not stop working during the ordeal. None of them do. To pause without instruction is to invite wrath. Only at the sound of the master overseer's horn are they permitted to take pause. This time, however, there is no pause. The scream fades. The man is dragged away, leaving a trail of blood in the sand. The block is reset. The carving resumes. Time moves strangely in the heat. Hours feel stretched and flattened. The carver loses himself in the precision of lines, the curve of a bowstring, the detail of a chariot wheel. Every millimeter matters. The script he carves, hieroglyphs in neat, vertical columns, must be exact. These are not simply words. They are spells. Every sign is sacred. To write a name incorrectly is to doom the soul it represents. When he carves the pharaoh's throne name, Usermater Setapenra, he does so with careful deliberation. The cartouche must be perfect. To chip it poorly is blasphemy. To misspell it is worse. The overseers carry no sympathy for religious errors. They strike offenders, dock their food, sometimes report them to temple authorities. The god's patience is thinner than the pharaoh's. Despite the oppressive silence demanded of their labor, the workers speak in glances and gestures. The flick of a hand to signal a cracked block. A raised eyebrow at an incorrect alignment. Silent communication honed by years of toil. Talking aloud is discouraged. Only the overseers may raise their voices without consequence. Occasionally, a scribe comes by, clean linen, uncalloused hands, a reed pen tucked behind the ear. He makes marks on a wooden tablet, recording the pace of work, the materials used, the faults observed. These scribes wield power. Their reports are read by priests, who in turn advise foremen and engineers. A single negative report can delay a worker's rations, dock his pay, or lead to reassignment. Some are sent to work on tombs deep in the cliffs, more isolated, more dangerous, harder to escape. The carver has worked in tombs before. He prefers the open air, despite the heat. Underground, there is no breeze, only the stifling pressure of silence and death. The deeper chambers are silent save for the sound of tools striking plaster or stone. Whispers echo strangely, and the symbols carved there are not triumphal battle scenes or images of abundance, but funerary texts, spells, warnings, threats etched to protect the dead from the living, and the living from what waits in the dark. Superstition clings to these places. Some workers refuse to enter tombs at all, claiming they feel watched, touched, cursed. Strange accidents occur more often underground. Candle that won't light, a collapse where the wall seems solid. A man struck dumb for days after seeing something in the shadows. Whether these stories are true or simply born of exhaustion is irrelevant. They are believed, and belief here holds power. Above ground, at least the carver knows what threatens him. The sun, the stone, the whip, the failing body. It is a brutal simplicity. Underground, the threats are less predictable. The afternoon wears on. His arms now tremble from strain. He forces his muscles to obey. The hammer is heavier than it was in the morning, or so it seems. Each strike now sends pain up into his shoulders, neck, spine. His back is wet with sweat, his legs coated in a film of white powder. Breathing is labored. His nostrils bleed slightly. Common ailment. The stone dust cuts as it enters the lungs. It accumulates. Men develop coughs that never go away. Some, in their later years, cough until they bleed, until they can no longer lie down without choking. These men are quietly dismissed or left to sweep floors in temple courtyards. Their strength gone, their usefulness at an end, they drift like ghosts through the edges of society. But the carver is not yet there. He still works, still moves, still carves. His hands obey, if only barely. He feels the stone's resistance through the chisel. Each groove he digs resists, fights back. The stone does not want to change. It takes violence to make it obey. Occasionally, he allows himself to look up, to see the structure rising around him. It is immense, a temple to the living God King. The pylons stretch toward the sky, covered in reliefs of conquest and cosmic order. The columns are shaped like papyrus stalks, towering above, painted in brilliant colors that the sun is already fading. Every surface is carved, painted, adorned. No empty space remains. Every inch must tell a story. Every inch is labor. And every inch is suffering. He does not resent the pharaoh. Not exactly. The king is distant, unknowable, closer to divinity than to man. He rides through the city in gold-decorated litters, wrapped in linen finer than anything the carver has ever touched. He dines on meat and dates, drinks sweet wines from. Syria speaks only in command and decree. His face is carved into every wall, worshipped in every shrine. He is not a man. He is a symbol, a function of the world like the river or death. What the carver resents quietly to himself is the system, the weight of the machine that grinds men into monuments, the cycle of labor, injury, silence, the illusion of legacy. He has seen workers buried with no rites, no amulets, no ceremony. Wrapped in linen, yes, but hastily, thrown into shallow graves behind the quarry. The gods may judge all men, but some are forgotten before they even arrive at the scales of Ma'at. He dreams, sometimes of running, of fleeing to a northern town, blending in among merchants, pretending to be something else. But he has no money, no pass from the overseer, no means to travel. And even if he did, he would be recognized by the tattoo on his wrist, the brand given to laborers of the king. He cannot undo that mark. And so he chips, he carves, he endures. When the horn finally sounds to end the day, he does not straighten. He cannot. His back refuses. He walks hunched, tools in hand, toward the village as the sun begins to sink behind the cliffs. The sky bleeds orange and gold. The stone glows faintly in the last light. The day's work will be inspected tomorrow. If any errors are found, they will be scraped smooth and carved again. More hours, more pain. But for now, the carver leaves, slowly, 1 foot at a time. He does not look back. The final call of the overseer echoes like a cracked whip through the fading light. It is not shouted, nor does it need to be. The sound carries weight, finality, and relief in equal measure. The stone carver doesn't stop immediately, he never does. He finishes the line he's begun, carefully rounds the final curve of a lotus blossom, and only then sets the chisel down. Stopping mid-symbol is to invite mistakes later, and mistakes bring punishment, not correction. The copper tool has grown hot in his hand. It smells faintly of metal and sweat. His fingers struggle to uncurl, locked in the familiar cramp of repetition. He flexes them slowly, one joint at a time, as others around him begin their slow shuffle back toward the village. He walks with them, surrounded but alone, each man locked in his own aching silence. The path home cuts through the softening edge of the desert, where the last heat of the sun bleeds into the cracked earth. Insects hum invisibly in the brush, and vultures circle low overhead, ever watchful for the misstep that turns a man into carrion. Even death here patient. The village comes into view as the sun drops below the cliffs. It's not large, maybe 50 dwellings in all, each the same sun-baked mud brick, each bearing the same scars of age and wind. Children run between them like jackals, barefoot and quick. Their joy rings out through the alleyways, a sound as out of place as birdsong in a tomb. A group of older men sits near a fire pit, carving wood into spoons or repairing sandals. They do not rise when the workers return. They've paid their due in years and pain. Now they wait for what none say. The carver enters his own home. 2 rooms, 1 lamp, and a roof patched with palm fronds and woven mats. Inside, the air is thick with smoke from the hearth, damp with heat trapped between walls that never cool. His wife is kneeling by the stove, stirring a pot that smells faintly of lentils and sour beer. Her fingers are stained with soot. Her back is bent from her own labor, grinding grain, hauling water, nursing babies. There is no idleness in this house. Their daughter, nearing womanhood, is seated in the corner, twisting reeds into a net basket. She works with quiet focus, but her eyes flick up at his entrance, not out of fear, not even concern. It is a glance of familiarity, routine. Their lives are woven from these brief crossings. A smaller shape rushes forward, his youngest son, grinning, dirt-smeared, with a scrap of linen tied around his waist like a warrior's kilt. The boy throws his arms around the carver's leg and talks quickly, breathless. Something about a beetle or a snake or a fight with another boy by the water. The carver listens without really hearing, his body still ringing from the labor of the day. He lowers himself slowly to a mat, joints popping, arms trembling slightly as he unwinds the linen wrap around his chisel. He inspects the blade, nicked in one place. Tomorrow it will need filing, but not tonight. Tonight it will rest as he will. Dinner is served with no ceremony. A bowl of lentils, half a loaf of coarse bread, and beer thick with mash. They eat together in near silence. The daughter offers her father the last of the bread. He refuses at first, then takes it with a nod. The wife watches all of this without expression, but with awareness. She knows these small exchanges matter more than words. Outside, voices rise, not arguments, laughter. A man sings a crude song in a wavering baritone, and others clap along. There's talk of another child born in the village. A woman in labor for 2 days, the midwife called twice. The gods invoked more times than can be counted. The baby lives. So does the mother. A small miracle. The carver doesn't go to the gathering. He rarely does. Not because he's unwelcome, he is, but because noise no longer soothes him. He's known too many men who laugh before sleep and don't wake the next day. Joy, like sunlight, fades fast here. Instead, he rises and makes his way to the rear wall of the house, where the light from a single oil lamp casts a warm halo. He sits again. His wife has laid out a shallow bowl of cool water. He soaks his hands, hissing at the sting. The limestone dust has worked its way beneath his fingernails into the tiny cuts between his fingers. He scrapes it out with the edge of a broken reed. His daughter joins him with a pot of honey. She takes his hand and begins dabbing the worst of the cuts, whispering a hymn to Sekhmet under her breath. Goddess of war, goddess of healing, there is no contradiction in this. In Egypt, the divine are many things at once. Afterward, they step outside. The night sky above the village is vast, clear and sharp, speckled with countless stars. The Milky Way cuts across it like a sacred river. Some believe it is the Nile in the heavens. Others believe it is the spine of a great god, broken and strewn across the sky. The carver believes both. He believes neither. The line between truth and symbol has long since blurred. He walks with his daughter to the small household shrine. It's nothing grand, just a stone shelf embedded in the wall outside their home, lined with simple offerings. A few dried lotus flowers, a clay figurine of Thoth with a chipped beak, a strip of linen with prayers written in cramped, awkward script. They light a small flame in an oil bowl. She murmurs something about her mother's aching legs and her brother's cough. She asks the gods for a quiet night, for no dreams of jackals. The carver closes his eyes and says nothing. He remembers a dream from weeks ago. He was inside a temple, older than any he's ever seen. The walls covered in writing not even the scribes could read. A voice, his father's or perhaps his own, told him to climb the columns. He did. When he reached the top, the stone beneath him cracked, and he fell. He woke gasping, hand clenched around nothing. Now, under the stars, he tries not to think of dreams. They return to the home. Inside, the fire has burned low. The daughter curls in her corner. The wife has wrapped herself tightly in linen and turned her back to the door. The boy is asleep again, hand clutching a carved wooden cat. The carver doesn't lie down yet. He sits for a time in the dark. He runs his thumb across a small scar on his wrist, long faded. A whip stroke. Years ago, the overseer who gave it is long dead. The scar remains. He touches the edge of his chisel once more, then sets it down beside him. For the first time that day, he allows his mind to wander. He thinks of his grandfather, a carver like himself. He thinks of the man's hands, crooked with age, showing him how to hold the chisel properly. He remembers how the old man used to say, "The gods made us from clay, but we carved them from stone. Who is greater?" He'd laughed when he said it, but the carver never forgot. He wonders what will happen to his own tools. Will his son take them someday? Will he carve a god's face into stone and understand the weight of it? Or will the boy escape, become something else? A scribe, perhaps. A dream so distant it almost feels like mockery. Still, it's a dream. The carver finally lies down. The mat is hard, his bones creak, but there is warmth in the room. There is breath and sleep and something like stillness. His eyes close. And this time, when sleep comes, it does not bring dust or collapse or broken stone. It brings water, the Nile, calm and wide, a breeze from the north.
Papyrus reeds rusteling.
And a temple in the distance, not one he must build, but one already finished. He walks toward it, and for once his hands do not ache. Night falls differently in Egypt than anywhere else. It doesn't arrive gently, it overtakes. The last ember of the sun disappears behind the Theban cliffs, and with it, the boundary between day and afterlife thins. The sky opens above the desert, black and vast and eternal, pierced with stars so bright they seem to hum. Inside his modest home, the stone carver lies awake. He does not toss or shift. That would take energy he does not have. Instead, he lies still on the woven reed mat, staring up into the darkness, eyes adjusting to the faint glow of an oil lamp burning low in the corner. Every part of his body aches, but this is normal. Normalcy here is pain that does not kill you. The real fear is when you feel nothing at all, when your body stops warning you it's falling apart. Pain is a promise that you are still alive. His wife is asleep beside him, her breath slow, even. The children are curled near the wall, their limbs tangled like roots. Outside, dogs bark in the distance. A hyena wails once, then falls silent. The desert reclaims its voice at night, soft winds whispering down empty alleys, sifting sand through stone, telling stories in a tongue older than writing. The carver closes his eyes and tries to sleep, but sleep now is an uncertain gate. One does not walk through it, but is taken by it, sometimes to dreams, sometimes to other things. He drifts, and in his drifting, the temple returns. Not the one he works on, not the real place of dust and lash and limestone blocks. This temple is taller, stranger. It towers into the sky like a mountain. The walls glow with gold that bleeds light. Every carving is perfect. Every figure moves. The gods look directly at him. Inside, he walks among scenes of afterlife judgment. He sees the Hall of Two Truths, where Anubis weighs the hearts of the dead against the feather of Ma'at. A figure ahead of him is condemned, the heart heavier than truth. It is eaten by Amit, the devourer. But when his turn comes, there is no heart to weigh. His chest is empty, the scale tips without effort, and then he falls again, endlessly, past a wall of unfinished carvings, his own work crumbling beside him. He wakes with a start, breath caught in his throat. The room is unchanged. The lamp has gone out. He rises slowly, careful not to disturb the others. His knees resist, crackling as he crouches. Every step across the packed earth floor feels brittle. The night air outside is colder than expected. Even in summer, the desert can chill to the bone once the sun abandons it. He walks barefoot across the village, past sleeping homes and dying fires. A few other men are awake, sitting in silence, staring up at the sky. No one speaks, not out of rudeness, but because there is nothing left to say. He makes his way to the outskirts, where the edge of the workers' village touches the wasteland. Here stands the small communal shrine. Its base is cracked, offerings scattered from the wind, but the structure stands. Carved into the stone is a crude depiction of Ta, the patron of craftsmen. His mouth bound, his hands clasped, creation springing from his thought and speech. The carver kneels. He does not pray aloud. He hasn't in years. The gods hear what they will, but he offers a small thing, a bit of honeyed bread saved from the evening meal. He places it at the god's feet. He presses his forehead to the stone and breathes in dust. He thinks of the dead. He thinks of the boy crushed by the stone block weeks ago, of the older carver who collapsed and never rose, of the man who tried to run and was found dead in the cliffs. Their names are no longer spoken. Their tools have already been passed down. He wonders what will become of his. Not the tools, but the name. He scratches it into the back of the shrine wall, below the other marks. Not large, not formal, just a few hieroglyphs. His name, his father's name, and the sign of the house. He doubts it will last. Wind and time eat stone as surely as the jackals eat flesh. But for now, it's there. For now, he is recorded. On his walk back, he takes a longer path, past the unfinished southern pylon, where the largest relief is still under construction. Massive figures of Ramses, towering over foreign captives, their hands bound behind their backs. He walks beside the wall and sees his own work. He remembers carving one of the captives, the face of a Nubian prince, expression calm despite his pose. He wonders what became of that man. Was he ever real? Or is he only an idea? A symbol created for fear and awe? He places his hand on the stone. It is cool now, still, but he remembers the heat of it under the sun. He remembers what it took to bring it from quarry to temple. He remembers the men who fell along the way. And still, he feels something there. Not pride, not quite, but resonance. There is something terrifying and beautiful about this wall. It is not just propaganda. It is a monument to effort, to hours no one will count, to lives no one will name, and still it stands. Still it speaks. The carver returns home just as the sky begins to pale. The horizon turns a bruised blue, the stars dimming one by one. A rooster calls from somewhere near the water channel. A woman stirs, sweeping dust from her doorstep with a palm brush. Inside his house, the fire is being rekindled. His wife greets him with a brief glance, a nod. She does not scold. She has known this routine too long. He sits by the hearth as she grinds grain. The sound of the pestle is rhythmic, steady, anchoring. His daughter is already preparing for her day, fetching water from the well, inspecting the woven goods she may take to the traders later. The boy still asleep, and that, more than anything, fills him with a strange warmth. He stands, stretches, and prepares his tools for the new day. The chisel is dull, so he sharpens it on a sandstone block, working it back and forth until the edge glints. The mallet's leather grip is worn. He wraps it with a fresh strip of linen. Small rituals, movements of purpose. Soon the others gather. Men file out of homes with their tools slung over their backs. Some cough, some limp. One man vomits behind a wall, then wipes his mouth and joins the procession. No one speaks of pain, not here. The walk to the site begins again. This time, the carver glances over his shoulder once. At his home, small against the desert. A clay oven, a reed mat, a single carved cat perched in the doorway. Nothing grand, but it is his. The cliffs rise before them like a second wall of gods. The temple emerges slowly, the rising sun casting long shadows across its columns. Another day of carving awaits. But today something has shifted. He knows the work will be the same, repetitive, backbreaking, thankless. But still, the mark he leaves is real. He will dig into the stone again. He will shape history, not as a man of power, but as the one who gives power its face. He will carve the name of a king. And alongside it, in a place no one will think to look, he will carve a lotus, a flower, just above the hem of a royal robe, small, discreet, a mark not of rebellion, but of memory. Something of himself tucked into the folds of eternity. A piece of a man no one will name, but who shaped gods from dust. And as he lifts his tools again beneath the gaze of a stone pharaoh, he feels, if not joy, then purpose. If not pride, then certainty. The wall will stand, and so will he,